Drum roll.
Here we are.
Andy, we are live. We're broadcasting from 25 degrees Celsius, Amsterdam, a little bit humid.
It is sort of weird. I don't quite know how to feel when I go outside because it's nice, but the humidity in the air makes me start to feel like, do I have a temperature or what's going on here? No, I don't have temperature.
And we don't have COVID.
We did our PCR or PCR. No, we did our antigen
rapid
test. Rapid test. There's a lot of people in Amsterdam at the moment that have COVID. It's the most spread we've had ever since the start of COVID. It's the worst days, and it hasn't translated into hospital visits yet. So basically, it's the kind of place you don't see any masks on the street, but you're probably better off wearing a mask at the moment.
And today we're going to discuss starting a business.
Today we're going to discuss starting a business with Kristen Dobbs and Amanda Austin. 2 years ago, they went through an experience which we're not supposed to discuss, which is just fine for us. But that experience brought them together, and then they decided to do a business. So we're going to discuss with them the trials, tribulations, experiences, what you've learned from going into business with one another.
And where are we going to do that, Mr. Shalef?
Where you think we're going to do it, Mr. Bambos, to meet you.
I have no clue.
Me too. See you soon. Nice. Bambos pointed out we were looking at our two guests because we can see them in our broadcast studio. So we're looking over them, and Bambos whispers in my ear, I don't know if these two know what they've gotten themselves into.
A lot of trouble.
We're safe. We will not do anything we're not supposed to do. At least we'll apologize afterwards.
Take full responsibility.
So although these two individuals are doing incredible things in the world, which we'll get into, I was really interested when I heard the two of them started to work together. And, you know, I'm always looking for the stories we bring on the show to be things that are honest challenges that people face.
Yeah.
And one of the most honest challenges I've seen in my own life and working, mentoring, and coaching others is when two people come together to start a business. And they'll often be very good friends, and they feel like that friendship translates into business. And a lot of times it doesn't. In fact, I've seen some of the best friendships go horribly wrong after people went into business.
Yeah.
Yeah. In my case, it wasn't so with Case. Yeah. The name is Case as well.
Case de Brown.
Yeah. And I think the key to that, which I would say, is we shared values, and the values were far more important than the business itself.
Beautiful.
That was what I would say. I mean, I didn't like Case at all. He was an asshole. I mean, I loved him, but he was an asshole.
He was
totally an asshole. But I mean, he was so principled that you had to respect him, you know, and I always laugh and say, I'd rather that someone respect me than you know, is that what I say? I don't even know what I say.
I don't know what you say. I mean, I'm in a similar situation as a photographer.
Than like me. Sorry, that was it. I'd rather you respect me than like me.
As a photographer, I'm working now with two lovely ladies.
Yeah.
And it is a friendship. And all of a sudden, we started doing these amazing photo shoots together.
Yes.
And it's a conceptual shoots. And what I see, because we share different principles and values in how we operate in life, in terms of if we make appointments, we stick to them, and showing up in a timely manner. All of a sudden, I find myself managing.
Yeah.
And in a way, that's where it starts to get challenging. But what I find beautiful in our relationship, I get to express without blaming.
Yeah.
But I can share how the impact.
Yeah.
And really being present, that I'm not trying to. There's no undercurrent of
guilt or shame.
I want you to feel guilty or shame or manipulative. It's really like owning fully where I am. And you know, I'm also kind of surrendered. If it doesn't make sense to work,
then that's just okay.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I mean, I know when you work with clients, you have a very high expectation of what you deliver. So to bring somebody else to work with you with your expectations, that also is a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's relationships built with trust. And since I spend like half a day sending 200 or 300 cold emails a day to get a client, and all of a sudden I'm working with two people who might not hold that space with me, and all of a sudden we've lost that client, and that's like, oh wow.
Yeah,
So
you did the hard work to get them, so it's really easy for another person not to value how much time and energy it took.
Yeah,
interesting. Wow.
So I'm really curious to see what
these
Kristen
two have.
and Amanda.
Kristen and Amanda, welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for coming.
You're going to be very famous after this, and your business is going to
explode. I'm a little nervous with your intro of us not knowing what we've gotten into. So.
I know. Well, we could see her. I've never had Bambos reach over to me and says during our little intro, he looked and says, "Did you see their faces? I'm worried these two don't know what they've gotten themselves into." And I just had this laugh, I'm like, yeah, they almost look like, what is going on here?
Hey, it's very early in the morning our time, so yeah.
My first question is, what is that tattoo? Because it looks absolutely fabulous, and I can't quite tell from this.
Thank you. They're falcons.
Falcons to symbolize?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but it's essentially the evil eye, but permanent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is that with you two, we know as we asked you, and everyone who watches our show knows the first question we ask is, what questions can we not ask you? You know, and we've even asked that on air on occasion, which is one of the most absurd questions to ask on air. But I loved it. Is that and what the questions that we're not allowed to ask you, you can put your finger up like this and say, "Hey, that's the direction of the bad question." That'll give us an indication. You ready to go with anything? I have some questions, but I'll leave some space for you if you have some.
I'll take my space. Go on.
Good. So you two, how long have you been friends?
Well, we've known each other for what? Like about 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And I'd say we were probably more like acquaintances for the first chunk of that time. But we've been good friends for
at least 3.
Yeah.
Did you have any judgment towards one another when you first met? Were there things that you saw in the other person that you didn't like?
Which made them stay acquaintances?
Yes, before you guys became friends.
That's interesting. Amanda wasn't the most she's not a super outgoing person. So I think it was harder to get to know her because I'm pretty outgoing and a bit loud. And I think that she's a little more introverted. So we had to kind of meet in the middle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a great combination, by the way, when it works.
Yes. Yeah. And it's worked really well for us. But yes, it was definitely some different personalities that we had to kind of blend or work to meet in the middle.
Yeah.
It's almost like you acknowledge the differences and you embrace them.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest challenge, because I'll do a lot of consulting for businesses where they'll be looking to hire for a position, and then I'm trying to say what's a good match. And the humor is, it's not really it's not that obvious, because you're not looking for a person who's like the person.
Exactly.
You're looking for someone to compliment them in ways that don't seem obvious at first. And introvert and extrovert, those are big categories, and they're overgeneralizations. So
they are, yeah.
So we'll use it just for the sake of simplicity. But when people are, how would you say, when they respect and appreciate that in another and don't see that it's a lack in themselves, then that's the sweetest cooperation that I've seen.
Yeah. 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 And I think a lot of it for us too is putting aside ego to say, it doesn't have to be my way entirely. There is room. And it's kind of funny because just like you said, oh, I'll leave some space for you. you know, you kind of have to do that in a working relationship as well, to say like, for me, I have to say, okay, I'll leave space for Amanda to do her thing. It doesn't have to be, I can put my ego aside, she can put her ego aside, and there's some space in the middle.
So when you guys, can you help me a little bit understand who went to who with a business idea, and what was the excitement that you were following?
We accidentally started a business.
Yeah. Okay. So sort of the initial idea was that we were interested in meeting others in the community that would want to meditate.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe back up a bit.
Backing up a little bit. Our business centers around meditation and wellness. And it's been, you know, it's doing quite well, and it's been absolutely amazing for the last 2 years. But for both of us, we had gone through some life-changing experiences. We weren't sure how to navigate that. And we were doing all of the things that they tell you, like, this is what you should do. You should go to therapy. You should do this. You should do that. And we were doing them all. It wasn't quite working. And so one of the things that I decided to kind of lean into, I wanted to look into some alternative stuff to see what else was out there. And I started to really lean into meditation, and it was helping me. And I said, like, hey, Amanda, this is really helpful to me. So we started to meditate together. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of just had this idea that maybe we'd meet other people that also wanted to meditate.
Yeah. And I mean, even
hold on, let's slow this down. This is too fucking beautiful. So you're kind of telling me it's one of these, like the opposite of trying to make a business. It just made sense. So you keep doing what made sense, and you got to wherever you are now.
Exactly. And we were doing the things that made us feel better.
And just inviting some others in to share space with us and to explore it as well.
But then what happened is that we had the idea that other people would come in and bring meditations that they liked, and that it would be like everyone alternated, and no one was interested in that. They just wanted us to lead meditations. They wanted to pay us to lead meditations.
Yeah, like I don't want the burden of having to come up with anything. I just want to show up and do it and leave.
Nice. Yeah. So our idea for just this group where everyone shares and kind of takes turn very quickly changed into, oh, okay, maybe this is the start of a business.
But even then we were like, okay, we'll casually do it.
Yeah.
And like a few people will show up, and then all of a sudden it was like 10, 20, 30 plus people showing up and telling us that we weren't charging enough and trying to give us more money. And we were like, okay, I guess that this is a business. Yeah.
Well, actually, I was about to ask.
I'm trying to get Bambos. See, this is what happens on the show between the two of us. I have a better ability to interrupt and kind of process. So Bambos nudges my arm down and says, he says, slow down, because I want to get a question in. But then he doesn't know how to break in. No, don't look at me like that. What are you looking at?
That's not true.
What's not true? What's not true?
I was listening to what they were saying, actually.
Oh, okay. Then
I'm
making assumptions. And
I lost the last part.
I'm making assumptions. Yeah. My apologies.
But I tapped him because he can be very much quicker than me. So
yeah, you got to get it in there that you have a question.
Yeah, so I have to like slap him on the ass, and then he sees that as me incapable, which.
No, let's agree. It's not that it's not also true.
Can we agree not to disagree? So, Kristen and Amanda, so in a way, what I'm hearing is the people that joined these meditations were actually acquaintances and friends.
Maybe a couple of them were, but for the vast majority of them, we'd never met them before.
Okay.
People were just telling their friends who were telling their friends who were telling their friends, and 30 people were descending on
loading up their cars and driving over an hour in rush hour traffic.
So how did you start charging? Because I can imagine when you start I know for myself, by the way, when I started a business, I was charging like 50 euros for an hour shoot, right? and eventually I build it up to like 350, 500, 1500. So in a way, where were you guys on that scale?
So it's kind of interesting because part of this as well is that I have a little herd of rescued horses on a farm, and that's where we were doing these meditations. And the woman that owns the farm is lovely, but she's always out to get a buck. So she said, okay, if you're of all of these people are coming, then like you should be paying me to use the space, which yes, 100%.
And woman that owns the farm, please, no offense.
Yeah, she's absolutely lovely, but like it makes sense, right? And so we had offered to pay. So then we're like, okay, well, where is this money going to come from? So I guess we have to charge people a small amount to come. And so that's kind of where we started. And one of our kind of mandates is that our belief is that things like meditation that are supporting mental health should be accessible to people. Because I feel like sometimes in the wellness industry, you get people like Gwyneth Paltrow, don't be offended, please don't sue me, but with her like, you know, $700 smoothies and all of these things that are super not affordable to regular people. So we've always kind of tried to keep fairly affordable while also like running a business.
Yeah.
So
yeah, so I mean, our prices haven't actually changed much at all since we first got started, because we really do want to make sure that it's accessible to everyone and that they're
nice.
Yeah, I mean, the point is always, can you make a living from it? And does it suit the vision going forward? Because a lot of times what I've seen is that as you do this work, you'll get 30, 40, 50. And then you'll say, well, if we really want to do this on the next level, then we need to get that, or we need to do this, or we need to, and it costs more money. So in a weird way, I've often seen that as businesses grow, they have to ask more, not because they can sustain themselves on that level, but because they often want to build to another level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think
is that how it's worked for you guys, or how is that?
Well, the pandemic was really interesting because for us, like you were saying that you are just kind of, it's the worst it's been for you in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
We kind of just came out of the worst that it's been for us. And so we're starting to gently open back up in Canada. So we were working away, and things were going really well. And then the pandemic like shut everything.
Yeah.
So we had to really look at pivoting into kind of more of an online space, which is something that we're kind of now working on moving into in the future. So being able to have reach a much larger audience and have some sort of more higher ticket options as well.
Okay.
So yeah, we are kind of building and going to have to build to that next level. And figuring out now kind of how to make that all work.
Do either of you or both of you have other work that you do separate from this, or is this full time for you?
This is our thing.
Yeah.
I mean, and the reason why I ask is because that adds obviously a dimension of pressure that you really do need to earn income in order for this to work. You can't just do this unless business is coming in.
Exactly. So yeah, there was some definite pivoting over the pandemic, but now we're kind of back and we're like very focused. So it's a lot of our energy.
Yeah. How has it been? Because in a way, it's you were doing the mindfulness work to heal yourselves. And now you've basically taken what you did to heal yourself and you've just scaled it up. And how has your own healing journey been in that? Because in a weird way, I don't want to call it a job, but it is also a job.
Yeah.
I think it's continued to just grow, honestly, and change as we've again, kind of shifted into offering this to others as well. We both obviously have our own meditation practices that we keep up with. And it's been such an incredible experience to be able to connect with so many people in the community and to kind of go on that journey with them as well, because so many of the people that have been in our community have been coming out for like a year and a half. And so we've really gotten to know them and to see their own journeys as well and how meditations help them. So I think it's added another layer there.
Yeah. And I think that we kind of we're trained as humans that we should be independent and do our stuff by ourselves. And we should be this like strong person that can do it all themselves. And we're not. Like, we as humans are meant to have community and connection, and we're not meant to be solitary. And so I think for us, inviting other people to kind of walk on our journey with us has actually been incredibly healing for us as well. So I think it all kind of builds, and we always see reflections of where we've been in other people.
Yeah.
You know, they'll come and they'll tell us like, oh, I'm going through this. And I'm like, oh, that was us like, you know, 1.5 years ago. I get that.
Yeah.
And so it's allowed us to identify with people that are going through crazy things.
Yeah.
What kind of challenges did you have in the beginning in holding space for people? Like, and how has that evolved over time?
Oh, that's a good question.
I mean, I think our capacity
I'm asking because I do authentic relating workshops in Amsterdam. And I remember the first ones until today, like in the beginning, I was like, oh, fuck. And now there's an oh, fuck, but I dive in.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're like, I've got my oh, fuck tools. Like, it's been really interesting, and it has really changed. You're totally right. It does change, and your kind of ability to dive into it and to have the tools and know what to do has really changed. And I think we had a lot of those moments, especially when people feel comfortable and they start to open up to you and they're saying like, I'm really struggling to meditate because I'm going through an abusive relationship, or I'm going through like a great loss, like the loss of a child or a family member. And I think initially we were not prepared for that. We weren't really prepared for people to kind of have these sort of epiphanies post meditation, and we just didn't. We were in a big oh fuck because.
Yeah, that's not something we ever went into it expecting, oh, okay, we're going to hold a meditation and then we're going to hear people's like deepest, darkest things that they don't often share with others. So
yeah. Have you had situations where deep trauma was released, and how did you deal with that?
For us, I think we have to be very clear that we are not counselors. We are not therapists. We're a beautiful tool, but that people, if you are experiencing that kind of trauma, we're more than happy to work in conjunction with therapy or counseling. But we can't. We can hold space for you to work through that, but you need to, like, people need to be working on those deep traumas as well. Like, we can't be the only tool in your toolkit.
Yeah. So I'm having an image of you two holding space together, and let's say Kristen is guiding the meditation, and it could be the other way around, by the way. But then Amanda, as the meditation is going, I was like, no, don't do that, don't do that. Oh, I wish you didn't say that. Like, did you ever have that? And how did you give feedback to each other?
We've developed an interesting and effective communication style throughout our events.
Okay, so now we're hundreds of meditations and events in.
Sure.
Like,
we're talking about the beginning now.
Yeah. And so we go kind of back and forth in our meditations, and we have like a whole range of like facial
hand expressions, like gesturing at things to slow down, speak up, like you name it.
Yeah. And you know, we know kind of if we're going too quickly, and then we'll be like longer, like just a little bit or a lot, or you know.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's its own.
Yeah, I regress to some very uncomfortable moments in my own life on that topic for sure. Bombas has another question, so we're going to continue on his.
Tell me about triggers between you. I love the deep breaths whenever I ask a question, like,
Okay.
You gotta think about that one.
Like how we trigger each other.
Yeah, and you know, so it feels like you guys have a really beautiful relationship, and obviously you've done a lot of work internally to be able to hold each other's yourselves and each other's space. And then of course we get triggered, and I'm wondering, how do you guys navigate those conversations in a way that it's not personal, but it comes from a loving space? And breathe.
Yeah. Hey, it's our like literal job.
Yeah.
Breathing.
Oh, that's a really interesting question.
I think one of the things is that we have different communication styles, and I think that can sometimes be a little triggering, where I like to over communicate and Amanda goes quiet.
Now, I often go quiet because I'm thinking. I'm like processing. My processing time is slower.
But I think I can usually be like, and then she's just like,
yeah. Does she do the stone face thing?
Yeah.
The stone face thing is so hard because you don't know, are they thinking? Are they judging? Are they like I had a friend that's stone faced, and I said, just do me a favor and nod every second, just so I know that the message is at least come inside your head. Like, that's all I need. Like
that friend's amazing. But what we discovered is that friend had trauma.
Who was that friend? Was that you? Wasn't you?
Well, I recognize it in myself, actually. If you look at our first shows, Andy would say, oh, you're shutting down, you're shutting down, you're shutting down. But in fact, there was a trauma there. And as soon as we named it as a trauma, I stopped feeling judged. So I was reacting to the judgment as opposed to anything else.
Oh, interesting.
So when people say stone-faced, I'm always curious what's behind the stone face, because sometimes you might say that you're thinking, but it might even go deeper. That it's, oh, I feel like the little girl and dad is talking to me in a way. So yeah.
Yeah.
I think you got. So to what degree would that be? Would that resonate for you, Amanda? If that's not too edgy.
No, I mean, well, sometimes it's thinking through what my response is, in that, like, you know, wanting to always please and that sort of thing, of thinking through how to word something. So sometimes it's that. Other times it sparked an idea in my brain, but my brain needs some time to follow that rabbit hole a little bit and see where it's going, to like formulate it as, you know, oh, I love that. And then what about if we like tweaked it in this way, or what if we went here with it? So there could be various reasons.
How easy is it for you guys to say no to the other person?
Interesting.
Well, I think with that, there's definitely that element of, like Kristen was saying before, that we are both able to put our ego aside and leave space for the other to take things in a certain direction if it's important to them, or if they really want to explore that. So I don't know that we come right out and say no to things a lot.
There's always kind of like, it's never a no because someone like just doesn't want to. Like, I think that in the business, for example, I'm always wanting to do something new and usually weird.
Really? I wouldn't have thought that.
No, not at all, right? But I'm always like, hey, this is cool. This is interesting. Let's do this. Like, I have no idea what this is. Let's give it a try, which I think can be challenging for Amanda, because it's not necessarily how you live your life. But then I really need that person that says, like, Kristen, that's too nuts. Like, that doesn't make sense. That's not a good idea.
Or it's just too many great ideas all at once, and we only have so many hours in the day.
Right. So I think that for us, that's challenging, because I'm like, I'm excited about something new and I want to do it. But then to listen, because I love her and trust that she has our best interest at heart, I can listen to her say, you need to sleep sometimes. We can't do all of the things. And that doesn't really make logical sense for our business. So I think we've built kind of a trust of knowing. And then sometimes there's times when Amanda's like, I don't know about that. And I'm like, we're going to do it, because I know that it's challenging for her, but I think it will be good. So it's this relationship that we've built of knowing that the other person has our best interest at heart. So we can trust that when they're saying no, it's because they really need that no to be heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking for me about the perfect balance of people watching your backside and encouraging you to take risk. Because that's actually where I've noticed in my own life, like, if I don't have a person next to me, I could sit and watch a Netflix series and not give a shit about anything. So there's like a degree to which just having another person in the ballpark,
his wife,
yeah. You even, we wouldn't do this show. We started this show because Bambo said, hey, Andy, I'm getting all of this insight from you. Why don't we just do a show and we'll talk about the things we talk about off air, just do it on air.
And, it's the first day of the COVID virus lockdown. So why don't we do something nice for that time?
Yeah. I mean, and think about that. We've done 242 shows since COVID began. This is
crazy.
Wow.
Just every day.
We had a 3-month
hiatus in there.
But
but in general, it's just every day we book a show. So my point being that if I didn't surround myself with people who were also challenging me, then I could easily take a path of easier, less resistance and do things that were just not as challenging. Yeah.
I had a picture of him 3 years ago. I took a picture of him and I put it on a vision board, and I'm like, I'm going to work with this guy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice.
And here we are.
Yeah.
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 Which one of
That's
you
awesome.
is the crazy one, and which one of you is the
Interesting
voice of reason?
I don't know.
Me neither. I have a really good dose of craziness, but
yeah,
this fucker the same.
It's like kind of, it's almost like we'll keep one another in check if they go too far off either way.
Yeah.
But a lot of the interactions when you were speaking reminded me, I had a dear mentor who died about 5 or 6 years ago. And he was the one in my life who, I was a director of a computer company. And then I sold all the stuff I owned and just said, I'm starting life over again. And he was Kristen and I was Amanda. So it's funny because if I look at myself now, I'm more like Kristen and less like Amanda. But at that time, I was 80% Amanda, and it was really interesting for me because he was taking bigger risks than I was taking in my own life. He would do things in trainings, and I remember even talking about it. I would get, and I haven't really had it since, he needed to break every person in a training. Like the word break, like this horrible masculine energy of they need to have an experience. And so I am very sensitive. I'm more empathetic. So I was feeling the pressure of the individual who is not allowing themselves to surrender to the thing he was trying to support them in. And so I would get the worst sweaty palms. Like my palms would sweat, so I could tell how difficult the session was by just the perspiration coming out of my system. And now
he's good. He's good.
And now I'm the one in his chair, because after he died, I couldn't just sort of sit back and watch him do the work. I'm like, hold on, it's time for me to step in and take the risks that it was easy for me not to take when he was there.
So he took his place.
So I had to take in my own way, of course, but it was easier for me to let him do the hard work and then stay where I was a bit more comfortable.
I'd like to dive into meditation a little bit. So, I mean, I almost had like a panic attack, a contraction in my chest half a year ago. My business was going down the drain. I was running out of money for the second time during the pandemic. And I was working behind my computer and it was all fear-based. And I'm like, okay, or I'm going to get a heart attack at the age of 44, or I need to go to the doctor and get medicated or get to a therapist. And I was looking at the choices and none of them were appealing. And I even thought, jump out of the window. And then I thought, breathe, motherfucker. So I sat down, I put my timer on, and I did 100 minutes of breath work. And I promised myself, since my life depends on this, I'm not going to get up until my alarm goes off. After the 100 minutes, I couldn't find an ounce of tension in my body. Yes. And there was a space in me, and I just couldn't. And my mind's like, I can't hold on to this moment. But what I dedicated to from that moment was 100 minutes on a daily basis since then.
Amazing.
And it's funny because what I've discovered, your outer circumstance might not have changed, but you create space inside you to be creative. And before, the fear contracted me and I couldn't be creative. So if you hear my story, I'm wondering if you have something to share in your own experience, how it's being meaningful and impactful in your own lives.
Well, I think we always say in our meditations that you find your best solutions in a meditative state. You'll think that you don't know how to solve your problems. You'll think that you're completely stuck. When you sit down, when you breathe, when you become present in your body, when you let your mind relax and calm, the solution 99% of the time is there. And it just, you're like, oh, that's what I need to do. So I think that's kind of been a huge lesson. And I think we live in a society that has given us so many ways that we can escape our emotions. We can escape what's happened to us. We can escape our traumas, the things that we're feeling. We can watch Netflix forever. Our phones, right? Yeah. We're on our phones. We're watching Netflix. If you ever watch people walking down the street, they've got a podcast in, they're talking on the phone. We're always distracted from our thoughts, our feelings, and our emotions because we do not want to sit with them.
But when you never sit with them, you never acknowledge them and deal with the emotions that you have, they just build up inside of us. And so that can often lead to like what you're saying in your experience, that moment of just anxiety and so much tension in your body that you're sitting there going, what do I even do right now? But like, I know this is a pivotal moment. I need to do something.
Yeah. And it's been really powerful kind of in my personal life as a tool to process, as a tool. And I'm not going to lie to people. It can be really painful initially because we're not taught to sit with ourselves. We're not taught to sit alone with our own minds. And a lot of people, when you say like you're going to have to do that, it's a terrifying prospect to them.
Yeah. You're going to have to listen to your own mind.
Yeah. But there's a really interesting, I was listening to a man speak and he said, okay, like, think about this for a second. You are observing your mind. So you as a person you're observing the voice in your mind, that inner voice. So you can't be the observer and the voice. Like you just literally, you can't be both those things. So if you're the observer, what the fuck is that voice? Right?
Interesting. Nice twist. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and having that sort of perspective can really help you to distance yourself from your thoughts, especially when you're in meditation and you're watching your busy monkey mind throw all these thoughts and emotions at you.
I'm not good enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I'm not
I'm too
worthy.
fat.
I'm not deserving. I'm a jerk. I'm fat. I'm ugly. All of these things.
Yeah, all of these self-judgments, when you're able to gain that bit of distance and say, oh, like that voice, that's not even me.
I give my I give my internal voice a name. She also happens to be our boss because we work for ourselves. So I call her Susan.
She's a hard ass, that woman.
And so when I'm in meditation and that voice pops up, I'm like, Susan, shut up. Susan, shut it. Like, I'm not going to let you talk to me like that.
Wow, you sound schizophrenic.
I mean, maybe.
No, but it's really beautiful what you're saying, actually, and I could see why that would work. I'd like to shift to something else. Your family and your relationships, like, hey, we have a business on meditation, and how do your family support or not that journey?
Because what percentage of the family thinks you're Looney Tunes? Give us a percentage. Are we talking 50% or 80%?
Amanda, do you get like, you're working with that girl with the short hair and the tats on her chest? What kind of shit is that?
Yeah, exactly. Amanda probably's got it on her end just by affiliation with you.
No, I've never gotten that. No, they've met Kristen. They think she's awesome.
They did meet me before I shaved my head, so that might have been a little bit of a.
My mom's seen you since. She was raving about how great it looked at you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, in all seriousness, are there people on either sides of your family who have a hard time embracing that meditation is your job?
So my mom,
Mama, you listening?
My mom, when she doesn't agree with something, she intentionally mispronounces it.
Example?
Like, she's so nice. She's so lovely and so nice, but just has her little, like, I think this is crazy. She will just refuse to correctly pronounce things that she knows are pronounced differently. So we've finally gotten her past the point of mispronouncing meditation or like gently forgetting what the name of our business is.
Oh, what did she?
What's meditation? How would she pronounce it?
Well, she'd be like, meditation. Like, but it would take her a bit, like, which she obviously knows. But I think I've been like this my whole life. So my family is pretty used to me doing things that are not like, I think it would be weirder to them if I was like, hey, mom, dad, I'm going to be a teacher. They would be like, or like a, like a regular, like a
lawyer,
office worker or something.
Or I'm going to go work in an office. They would be like,
are you okay?
Yeah.
Everything okay? I don't know. How does your family feel?
I mean, my mom is a huge supporter. She loves everything we do and thinks it's great. And she's made meditation a part of her life, which is awesome. We do a lot of meditations, and we also do a lot of sound healing and sound baths.
Which is out there for people.
Which is a bit more out there. And so I think that's probably the part that everyone in my family, to an extent, just kind of raises an eyebrow at. And they're like, I've never experienced it. I have no idea what it's about, but it seems out there and it seems kind of weird, but you like it. And the people in your community love it. So that's great. So it's more just that, not fully understanding that part, but in general, they're really supportive.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. And we're both really, really lucky to have partners that are super supportive of us, will come to our stuff, even if they don't necessarily understand it or get it. But
that's the definition of a loving partner, I would say.
Yeah, my wife hasn't even gone to any of my trainings, or she hasn't even read the books that I've written where she's mentioned in them. Like she doesn't even, like, that's how little she cares.
And his wife, Ronnie, if you're listening, read the fucking book to get him off my chest.
I was gonna say I don't want her to read it anymore because then I can't keep saying it on air. Like it's a good story. Now the story gets
point.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So I have one subject, money.
Yeah, I had money down here as well.
How do you guys deal with finances?
Yeah.
Who gets more salary?
At this point, we split everything 50-50. And that kind of hasn't been an issue.
Let me check in with something. Are you guys equal in partnership, or do you feel sometimes one of you has to manage the other? Even if it's a slight.
We have really different. I think one of the things that makes our business work is that we have different things that we're good at. And so if we want the other person, more of the other person's participation in kind of our side of the business, then I think we both have to be like, you know, Amanda will be like, can you respond to these emails, please?
Yeah.
And I'll be like, hey, I booked us an interview. So I'm showing up at your house at 7:30 in the morning. So be
awake and caffeinated, please.
Yeah. So I think that we both kind of manage different parts of the business.
Yeah.
And then we kind of have to be on the other person to do what we need them to do in the part of the business that we deal more with. If that makes sense.
Is this the interview that you booked?
Yes.
Yeah. It's interesting because I had this colleague I mentioned who died, and we worked together for I think 5 years, more 10 years probably. But the thing was that the last 2 years of his life he had cancer, and he really couldn't work all that much. So I was working, invoicing, but paying him half of the salary. And it was really interesting because in a way, from the societal understanding, that would be an incorrect way to work because he wasn't doing half of the work then. I was doing all the work. He was off somewhere just trying to get cancer treatment. And I said, hey.
And green juicing.
We've done this journey together. So actually the money is ours to share. And if this is the payback, if let's say that in supporting you when you supported me early on when I wasn't as good or adept at doing this, but I got better. So now I could service us and bring the money in that he was bringing. Then, hey, that was the trust he put in me. And then it goes both ways.
Wow.
And it's interesting because I noticed that way of working isn't so familiar to people because there's the idea of possession and ownership. And I do so much that has this many hours. And that means you did that many hours. So how does that like land for you?
First of all, that's really beautiful.
Yes.
Your relationship and how that all worked out. I really love that.
I think that it's different when you're working with someone that you love or care about or have a vested interest in their well-being. The most unhappy I've ever been in my entire life is when I've kept a scorecard. And for me personally, like that's just, I just can't work like that. Because if you only give out X amount, you only have room to get back X amount.
Yeah.
Like it never gets any bigger because it's always just the exact same. And like, I've tried to work with other friends where it's like, I did this exact thing, so you have to do this exact thing without kind of realizing that humans are human.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we've had points too in our working relationship where one of us is going through something or, you know, something's happened, we're not feeling well. And for whatever reason, we're not able to do some of the things we'd normally do. And so we'll kind of go back and forth and it's just this relationship of, hey, I'm crazy right now, or like, I really can't do this right now. Can you take it over? And so we'll kind of go back and forth to some extent as well with sort of covering one another when life gets crazy or an animal gets sick.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of recognizing the humanity in it first. But then also the other thing, the other flip side of that is knowing that that other person has your best interest and the best interest of the business at heart, and that they, if capable and when capable, will work as much as they can for the business.
Yeah. I think that's what I said when we were starting earlier, is that the sharing of values is more important than, and from what I hear, the two of you actually like each other more than the guy I worked with. Because I mean, he was an asshole. I mean, I loved him, but he was an asshole, you know. He listened to the worst music. Bambos would say this of me, but I would say
I have to say that I like some of his music, but Jesus Christ Superstar is not on my #1 list.
Go ahead.
That reference came up in, was that with you? Anyway, that's just funny.
There's a song in that, which I always forget the name of because it's some weird word that I never would use. And it's basically when Jesus is trying, do you know the word?
He's on the cross.
He's before the cross.
Before.
Basically, everyone has forsaken him, and he's now sitting in a dark night of the soul. And it's a really beautiful song. And I always know when a client, when I'm working with, has sort of seen their reality or their truth to dissolve around them. Like, I'm like, oh, this song is the most appropriate song at this moment.
And he sends it to them.
And then I send it to them. And there's always like oh, I needed this, like a hole in the head. Now you know how Jesus felt.
Oh, is that why you sent me that song?
Could be, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it was that.
Amazing.
But it always puts me back in that state. I guess the thing that, which I wanted to kind of share is that what I'm hearing, similar to the relationship I mentioned with my former colleague, was that there was really a deeply shared values. And I don't think people understand that values are far more important, or as important, because business needs to run as well. But that if you don't share values and you start a business with someone, it's one of the most painful experiences that you'll go through in a lifetime.
Yes, yeah. It sure is. Yeah. I have been there.
Yeah.
So what would you say your values are?
Compassion and coffee.
Yeah. That sums it up really well. Yeah, I was going to go with empathy, but compassion is just as good. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the driving part of our business is integrity with our word. If we say something is going to get done, it means that it'll get done. It'll suck. We might have to stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning to get it done, but it will get done. So we always have that trust that anything that the other person says is going to happen will happen, which I think is really crucial in business, to have that kind of trust that someone's not going to flake out on you.
Yeah. And then obviously the compassion for one another, and kind of looking at each other from that human first perspective, rather than the business being the sole thing that we're looking at or thinking about. And that also extends out to our community as well, and how we approach all of our events and interactions with them, always having that lens of compassion.
Yeah, I think that one is probably one of the most fundamental ones that compassion is part of that. The second one for me, actually, because the humanity, when I see that absent in anything, I'm not interested anymore at all in life. Like, it's over. Like, you know, whatever your business is, it doesn't interest me. So in meetings, if things come up where there's an emotion that's arising, but we're not discussing it, then that's unacceptable for me. Like, the meeting is about whatever that emotion is, and we allow that to resolve itself, and then we can go back to whatever it is we thought was important. Nice. And that's not an easy thing for a culture to get if it didn't start that way.
Yes.
Yeah. If it starts that way, it's okay, because anyone that enters understands the rules of the game. But if you enter a system where there's a lot of masculine energy, where people are trying to get outcomes, and then there's somebody that just had a parent die, and they're in a meeting, and then there's no one acknowledging that their parent died yesterday. Can we acknowledge that this might be the worst place for them to be? Like, this makes no sense for us to pretend like this is, like, why are they here?
And they're not going to be a great employee if they're super distracted, and then they're not receiving that support from their community, which is their work community at that point. So Ugh.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No to all of that.
No.
Yeah.
So you're meant to be Zen. And
What did you say?
you're like, I'm projecting. So I can imagine
You're meant to be Zen. Can you repeat the
yeah,
sentence?
you're meant to be Zen. So I go to them and they're facilitators of meditation, but you're running a business also. So how do you navigate if you're going through stress and tension or something challenging in your lives where you don't suppress the emotion, and so it's okay to have that emotion?
So we had a really, really interesting meditation very early on at the farm. It was at the farm where I have my horses. And this was kind of the pivotal moment where we knew that there was also some space for us to express ourselves and emotion. We were the day before, 2 days before, we were supposed to lead this like sold out meditation. So many people were coming. One of the horses on the farm died in a really tragic, horrific way. And we witnessed it, or I witnessed it, and it was horrible. Like, it was just, he had to be euthanized. It was absolutely horrible. It was so horrible. And so I thought, okay, we're going to, like, I told Amanda, and we thought, okay, do we cancel this meditation? But we couldn't even get in touch with half of the people that were supposed to be coming. And so we thought, okay, we'll just do it. I won't do any part of the meditation. I'll kind of just be there. Amanda can, we'll do the meditation. And we got there, and there's, so many people there.
Yeah, I can.
And we do a thing where we do like a gratitude circle, like something that we're grateful for at the beginning. And it got to my turn, and I was just like, I can't. And I said, like, I have to let you guys know, like, this is something that happened. The horses are all in mourning because they do really mourn. And I'm really sad, and I want to do this meditation, but like, my heart is just like, ugh. And we all cried, like every single person in that group. It was just this collective, like, I sobbed, everyone cried. We let it all out. I think it was a letting go meditation. Like, it was something. Yeah. And we did the meditation. I had to stop several times to kind of let out that emotion. But it was that moment for me and for us, I think, in our business, where this community that we accidentally created gave us the space to not just be like these gurus and these like leaders, but also like let us just be human and let us express ourselves, and gave us that space and held that for us in such a beautiful way that kind of let us know that there was some space for us to be human. And I think that might be something that makes us a little bit different than people that are trying to appear perfect behind this facade of like, I am completely healed. I am the Zen master. Nothing ever affects me. And so I think that gives people space to say, like, I am really struggling, because they're not afraid of being judged, because we're honest about when we're struggling as well.
Thanks for sharing. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
I felt the beginning of tears there when you talked about the words. You didn't go into the details, but the way the energy of your words said it all.
Yeah. Just some light conversation.
Yeah.
That's our show.
Yeah.
We had a guest that once said, am I supposed to feel better after your shows?
Yeah. I got a call afterwards, and someone who hadn't seen his show said, I'm confused. Am I supposed to feel better after watching your shows?
Oh my God. Like, it's real, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a minute, and we're more than happy to go. Can you tell people that are potentially watching where to find you if they'd be interested?
Yeah. All right. So our website is wellnessonthefarm.ca, and you can find us on all the social media places at Wellness on the Farm. Yeah, and we've got a bunch of meditations up on YouTube, and we're teachers on Insight Timer as well. So people are able to get a sense for some of our meditations and have a listen if they'd like.
Wellness on the Farm, is it 1L, double S?
It's double L, no? Wellness.
Yeah.
It's 2 L's.
Who else?
Wellnessonthefarm.ca.
I have a question that is not a very good question, but I ask it because it interests me.
Okay.
Why do you use the word meditation and not mindfulness, or vice versa? What would be the reason that you choose one or the other?
Well, we explore a whole variety of meditation styles in our group meditations. So it's not just mindfulness meditations that we do. So feel like that's sort of that broader sweep to let people know that, yeah, we kind of explore all types.
That's funny because I don't even know, I don't have a distinction between the two. So when you say you're not only doing this, but other meditations, I wouldn't know what the difference is actually. That's funny.
Yeah. Mindfulness is just one subsect of a very long tradition of meditation.
Oh, clearly. Yeah. I've always seen it as the vanillification of meditation, so they could be more accepted by schools, institutions, and not have the hint of a religious connection. So that's sort of what I
yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah, fascinating. Well, thank you for waking up at 7:30 and having your coffee to get here.
Are we at Amanda's house?
Yes, we're at Amanda's house.
Yeah.
And thank you, Amanda, for making sure that that Kristen got there. Because
I've been up since 5 a.m.
Yeah,
it's not an issue for me.
This one wakes up early. It's
I'm an early bird and she's a night owl. So
oh wow, that's another distinction as well, of course.
Yeah.
I think I'm the early one.
He's the early bird for sure.
Are you?
Yeah. Bambos does ice baths at 5 a.m. I'm up at 10, and then it's an early morning.
That's exactly our relationship.
I'm like 8:30, but it's still like I need a couple cups of coffee.
Yeah, no, I'm 5 close to 9.
I'm like, I've already gone for a kayak. I've had coffee. I've written a meditation.
Yes.
I'm good to go. And
Bambos has had a full day behind him by the time we've spoken in the morning. Yes. Thank you too. It was really sweet being with you. Thank you
so much.
It was
really
nice.
grateful. Yeah, it was great meeting you.
Beautiful day.
Yeah, it's a day on your side.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Shalev.
You're welcome, Mr. Dimitriou. That was really sweet.
It was very sweet.
Yeah, you see, basically, you know, it's nice when you connect with people that are also sharing values in their work. It bleeds into everything they do.
That's correct.
And I see, obviously, we share a lot of values as well, which is why we've done 242 of these together and not killed one another. Tomorrow is Friday.
Tomorrow is Mental Strength and Resilience with Carrie Howell.
Carrie Howell was in the military and he got out, had PTSD. He had
addiction and homelessness.
He went through the whole gambit. And then he started focusing on making models.
Yeah.
And he said through making models, he built up mental strength and resilience. And he's now using model making as a tool to help others.
Yeah.
And so I thought that would be a cool thing to have him on the show to discuss.
So nice.
Through making models, he built up mental strength and resilience. Thank you. You're making our audio engineer go crazy now. I apologize to you right now, Cass Midgley. We love you. We'll see you.
1 second. There's one comment that I like.
But what does he say?
Bambos was on fire.
He was on fire today. Both along. Did you see it? He was totally on fire. I was loving the energy. He was like upbeat, just feeling the pulse of the next question.
I was nudging Andy.
How did it feel, Bambos?
I was nudging.
How did it feel?
I was nudging Andy in the guts, and that was
great. But I
great.
mean, you were in the zone. You were like fully just. You were like, it was almost like you had a pulsating energy going through you today. What was going on?
It's a subject that I can relate to very well.
Okay. Is it also a mental state you're currently in, or? I think it is. Because you told me you sent out 300 emails today and you were feeling great about it, totally energized.
That was yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're carrying that energy on the show for sure.
Definitely.
Because before you would have said 300 emails, oh, I'm exhausted. Just now you're like, hey, I did it.
It's 300 cold emails of potential.
I mean, that's work. That's real work.
So, Mr. Sheriff, we're gonna see you
and
me
and you
and
us
on
a wonderful chaos
Chaos It Is
tomorrow.
Yes, it
and
is.
it is tomorrow.